we are concerned right now in this presentation with the pain that many of us as pastors, as clergy, as leaders in the church have felt, the kind of pain we feel when the people that we work with, the people we love most, don't hear us, don't agree with us. They might have even castigated us for positions that we may have taken. We may feel betrayed by those very persons, the persons we're supposed to work with closely and be Christian together, be in communion with. And so there is an inner pain that is likely for most of us as we try to find our identity and then to let that be expressive in and through our lives. Oddly enough, today, October 17, Richard Rohr, you know, our mutual hero,
yes,
sent out a meditation that he wrote some time ago, and he said that it's really important to work with our woundedness in a loving and accepting way. He says, if we cannot find a way to make our wounds into sacred wounds, we invariably become negative or bitter. If we do not transform our pain, we will most assuredly transmit it,
yes,
usually to those closest to us, family, neighbors, coworkers, and invariably the most vulnerable. He says, we must carry the cross of our own reality until God transforms us through it. These are the wounded healers of the world, and healers who have fully faced their wounds are the only ones who can heal anyone else. And I thought you are the person to help us think about this in a new way, but also to practice it. So in this time together, I'm going to turn it over to you to do a presentation and then to lead us through a meditation of your own.
Oh, thank you, Robert. I would love that.
So I'm going to step away in this presentation. I'm going to leave you alone, and I may join you at the end.
Okay.
Great.
Well, the first thing that is so important when we realize that there is this pain within us, that something has happened in our external world that has triggered this sense of pain within us. The first step in order to transmute that and turn the dark to the light, allow that grace to transform us, is to accept what is there. And it seems so counterintuitive because as a human being, what our first instinct is when we feel pain inside of our bodies is, oh, I've got to get away from that, right? And that is a reaction of fear. And fear and our reacting inside of fear only brings more fear into our bodies, into our temples. And so the way to transform that pain is not to resist it, but instead to allow it, to embrace it, to accept it. And so to me, I think of the fact that all of us, I think, if we had the opportunity, when pain comes our way, would think, oh, we wish that cup would pass away, that it would not be ours to experience. But our faith, Jesus provides such a beautiful example of how to allow pain to become that force of light in this world. And that is, we must drop all resistance to it. We must go in with that grace, allowing that grace to come through us and allow that grace to turn the dark into the light. And so in working with people, which I teach classes and I work with people one-on-one inside of contemplative practice, I came up with a method for doing that. And I originally came up with it in teaching children. But then I realized when we adults are inside of a place of pain, we can't remember what to do. And we need something really simple to remember. And so the way that I practice it is inside of ABC. So what does that mean? A is accept, B is breathe, and C is choose. And so what does that look like? What that looks like is, first of all, I must accept that in this moment I feel angry or betrayed, or I'm experiencing grief. Now, where do we feel that pain? We feel that pain inside of our bodies. Emotion is emotion that we make with our bodies. Then the science of it is our brain, the limbic system makes a map of the form we just made with our body, like I'm angry, right? Or I'm in a state of peace. And then we think about it, right? And so, what's so important if we want to get to the root of the pain that we feel so that we can allow that grace to come through is acceptance. This is the part everybody always wants to skip over, right? We'd rather just breathe and try to relieve it. But first, we accept. So, how do we accept? That means we have to find it in our body. We have to focus on the experience of it, really fully feel it. And then we have to make certain that we're doing that inside of a state of loving kindness, compassion for ourselves, for the experience. And that's how we move through acceptance of the pain in our lives. And when I do it myself, I imagine, like, for instance, if I'm feeling a state of grief and it's in my heart, I'm feeling a state of anger and it's up here, or maybe betrayal and I feel it in my stomach, right? I imagine myself going and sitting inside of that pain and saying to myself, it's okay. Go ahead. I'm right here. Express. Because I know that fear is my body trying to communicate with me that something is awry. And so I'm going to go there without resistance. And when I do that, that grace comes in, and then that pain begins to move through my body. And it diminishes. It diminishes quickly when I don't feed it with resistance, when I don't think about it and tell myself a story like, I can't believe that this person just did this, or this was so wrong or so horrible, right? And instead, I'm focused on my experience of it. Oh, my heart hurts in this moment. Oh, everything is tense in my body. Oh, I feel really sick. Whatever that is, I focus on just having that experience without judgment. Then we breathe a three-sided breath. We do that because we want to breathe a breath that has an exhale that is longer than the inhale. And the reason for that is a one that's based in science. And that is that when we exhale longer than inhale, we activate what is called our vagus nerve. And our vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our body. It connects our brain to all of our organs. We used to think that this was how the brain controlled the body. But then what we found out was that 80% of that communication came from the body up to the brain. And so if you think about maybe the last time you had a big project that was due, likely when it was over, you felt your body go, right? Relief. That's the sound of the vagus nerve telling your brain that the threat has passed. And so if we breathe a breath where we have a longer exhale than inhale, we're actually strengthening that nerve in our body. And when we do that, we create more of what's called vagal tone. And what that means is that we've created more of almost a muscle there. And how strong that nerve is determines how quickly you can get from a state of fear to a state of peace. And so then we breathe a three-sided breath after we have accepted and felt that emotion drop in intensity. And that kind of clears the slate for us. And then we choose, what do I choose to be a vessel of in this world? Oh, I choose to be a vessel of peace, of God's grace. And so then in choosing that, I think not only using those sacred words in our faith, I am peace, but also imagining that coming into the body. And what form does the body make when we feel peace? And so if you think about it, when you're stressed, your shoulders are up high, you're tense, you're tight, right? And so as we breathe, we allow that grace, that breath to flow through our body. And so our shoulders drop, right? Our shoulders pull back. We allow ourselves to open our heart. We can breathe into our hands and allow the hands to relax. We can soften our entire body. Then we create the form of peace. We work intentionally with that grace to more fully embody it. And that is the ABC practice that I use with people. And it's a very practical thing to be out using in the world. If you practice it over and over again, I start out at somewhere between a 5 to 10 minute practice. I have a recording of it. People use it. And then I say, once you feel really confident, no, you don't need to hear the recording of it. Now you just, while you're out there, while you're walking through the world, now you just do it as a way of being, as a way of allowing that grace to flow through you in real time. And that's it. So I would love to have an opportunity to show you what that looks like today. So if you just get comfortable inside of your chair and just take a moment and close your eyes.